This video is sponsored by Blizzard Entertainment. More about them later in the video. For nearly a decade, Riot always failed to break League's mold. It didn't really matter what would happen to the game. At the end of the day, the game and its audience would remain the same. Just 5 sweaty players trying to outsmart other 5 players on a linear battlefield. That simply never changed, and as a result, League's audience also stayed the same. And this sets up the issue of your own audience simply getting tired of your own game. It is inevitable, it happened countless times before. Now the key to solve this issue would be to change how the game behaves. If we ignore TFT for a moment, because it is essentially its own game, the first time Riot tried to do something with this was with Arena. A game mode that took League's gameplay and it gave it a spin in what could be considered a totally different combat style. And all things considered, Arena was met with a big success. But even after doing this, League didn't fix its biggest issue. The audience was still the same. It is the same people who previously played on the Summoner's Rift, except now they all play the same game in an arena. So not much has changed. But then, Swarm entered the battlefield. And now, after weeks of being teased on PvE, it was released into the public hands. And the players realized, this is not League. In fact, this is not even the same game genre that would cater to the old League audience. This is something brand new for Riot as a whole. And the ripple effect it started is amazing. Because for the first time in many years, League's old players installed League again. So today, let's have a look at the public perception of League's newest game mode. For those of you who somehow don't know, Swarm is the latest game mode in League of Legends, which isn't really League of Legends. If anything, it is a Vampire Survivors-like game, with nearly identical gameplay, which also means it has little to nothing to do with League. And ironically, that's why players are coming back to League now. A lot of players noticed that League essentially released a whole new game, and that the game happens to be really addicting. Now, up until this point, the main source of news around Swarm was Rioters giving us new stats on Twitter. That's because for the most part, only people with PvE accounts could try out the game mode. And there we learned that even on PvE, the game mode flew past all of Riot's expected projections. Which means there was the hope that this game mode would go big. And big it went. Because next, after its official release, players swarmed Reddit with positive comments, which is something almost unheard of. With the biggest one that essentially started a whole new conversation around League being, I reinstalled Riot Client after 6 years to play Swarm. This meant a lot. Not only because League has been suffering from not being able to get new or returning players back into the game, but also because now you have to install Vanguard to even play League. I'm a sucker for PvE games, especially roguelikes. I saw it on stream and immediately downloaded it to try it out. And oh man, I miss Riot quality so much. I hope the community embraces it as you did with TFT, cause I will love to see more PvE content. I'm an older folk and single-player games are more of my jam. Bravo to the team that created it. I will stick around for anything related. This is what a lot of players have been reflecting. It is natural that over time the player's taste in games changes. And if anything, it is natural that as you grow older, you will lose interest in competitive PvP games. Yes, it will happen to you too. Which is why single-player games are on a bit of a rise. And that is also why Swarm is resonating with such a big portion of League's audience. For a while, the casual audience of League of Legends has been looking for a way to simply play League in a casual way. And to this day, there never really was a way. And what's amazing to see is that even based on how Riot's handling the servers, the popularity seems to be good. On launch, Riot gave the game mode an artificial 1-minute queue. That's simply to make sure that players are even able to get into the game. That's how many games were launched. And over time, they were able to optimize the time and push it down. Not to mention, there was also an increase of queues on the entire EU West server. Based on how overwhelmed the EU West server has been since Swarm's released, it seems like a huge success. Although we should point out that this might also be because if you wanna launch Swarm, you have to do it as a solo player. Which means a single player is occupying a spot on a server. Normally, a game is handling 10 people at once. But this also brought up another concern the community has. Only problem is, they need to figure out how to monetize. Cosmetics seems difficult since the game themselves are to promote or showcase a skin line for actual League. Yes, this is a big part of the event. It is there to advertise stuff for League. So for the future, in order to get more funds for something like this, if people want to keep this as a permanent game mode, I guess we would have to be able to use our own skins for this game mode. And that is a whole another technical hurdle. Regardless, the positive comments simply wouldn't stop. I have played it more than the actual real game this event. I barely play League at all anymore besides some ARAMs like once a week. But I've literally been hard spamming this game mode since release. This reminds me of the time when I used to play Black Ops just to play the minigame zombie mode. I haven't had this much fun on League in at least a decade. Man, I love it. I just wish it was available offline. Add more of the champion pool. Let us use our skins. And bam, I think this might be played more than Summoner's Rift. This should be out on console. You've heard the man, Riot. It's your move. What's amazing is that Riot could theoretically use this for storytelling, which is a wild thing to say in a survivor game. But think of how many wars we have had in this universe. The Noxian War, the Icathian War, even just Demacia fighting waves of mages. This game mode could be adapted for canonical storytelling too. I mean, this is a channel based around lore after all, which means that...
Necrit, you dissect history with the precision of a surgeon. But your theories confuse even the most enlightened.
Thanks, Blizzard Entertainment, for sponsoring this video. If you're wondering what that was about, ask Xaladath in the latest World of Warcraft expansion, The War Within. I can't believe she did that to me. Now back to the other mind-bending hive mind. That being Reddit. Thanks for Swarm! I managed to bring 3 friends from 3 different social circles of mine to try and play. I'm glad there is an effort to make a mode like Swarm again. I managed to snag 3 friends from 3 different friend groups to play it. They enjoyed it, and I get to tell them how the abilities work in actual League game. And right now they are asking when's the next time we can play all together. So I guess it's another circle just for this game mode. See, League achieved the impossible. Someone got friends by playing this game. That's the biggest achievement. I love Swarm. I'm not going to keep playing it over and over again after I'm done, and that's okay. I really don't want Riot to come back and say engagement dropped after 2 weeks, sorry guys, no more PvE or events. Hello Mr. Bean Counters! I bought the Misfortune Prestige skin because the entire event and effort around it got me engaged. I did not buy Pass Slop number 38 skin line. Playtime, especially when compared to PvP modes, is not a real metric. No one calls Baldur's Gate 3 a flop because its play numbers are way down. Maybe not the best example because it has repeat value, but I think you got my point. Now what's awesome about this is that Riot actually agrees. They confirmed that the metric they use for measuring success changed drastically. So they are not just looking at pure engagement anymore. Now the fuzz and the hype around a game mode counts too. So think of the new metric being a happiness meter. Because I don't really have a better word for that. And what's also important is that the players have actually been buying the skins to support the game mode. It is not an isolated incident. As an example, here's another one. Swarm has done a better job advertising skins to me than any trailer or promo video prior, because I actually get to use the skin in-game. Going into this event, I had no intention on getting any of these skins, because the champs in the event I play I already have skins I like for them. But after playing Swarm, seeing the skins in-game and being able to use them, I've changed my mind and fully intend to grab at least the Briar skin next patch, and probably Xayah too. While Riot can't, or at the very least won't be making games like this for every big skin drop, just being able to use them in-game, even if it is just a practice tool, and seeing how they play would do wonders for advertising skins. Now here's the thing. I know I just got burned by Xelatas, but I have a theory. If you hop into League's client and you go into the Swarm tab, in the database you can actually find a 3D model viewer of the enemies. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Riot's plan to reuse this tech. And eventually we get a 3D model viewer for the skins. The only issue with this is that League's champions are supposed to be viewed from the top. Many of them simply don't look great if you look at them from the front, not to mention up close. So while a 3D model viewer could do wonders for sales, sometimes it might prevent people from buying them. But yeah, as you can see, the overall perception of Swarm is amazing. And Reddit is being swarmed by positive comments to such a degree that other people believed it is a paid promotion by Riot. And if it is, then good! This game mode deserves it. Though we do have more proof that Swarm is simply doing well. And that's the release cinematic. We are 3 days after its release, and already it's getting close to 2 million views. For comparison with the other audiences around League of Legends, that is more than the Faker documentary for the Hall of Legends, which was arguably aiming more for the competitive audience. Also, this is quadruple the views you would normally get for a skin cinematic. But the cool part is that if you listen to the cinematic, you can hear a proper song in the background. Well, it turns out, once again, Riot heavily leaned into the music advertising. And so, not only did Swarm get a full song, which I am expecting for that one to drop eventually, but also, over in Japan, it got kind of an anime intro, I guess. But that is it for how Swarm is currently doing. Long story short, everything is looking really good. And if I was Riot, my palms would start to get sweaty. Because the player base obviously wants more of this. So now you have to make a decision. Do we make this permanent and we start giving it more content because it is actually getting new players to play League? Or is it something that would make a comeback every year for a big skin line? Or is it something that we would just ignore and will make something else next year? Regardless, the truth is, no matter what Riot does, it will clash with Arena, which is also a game mode Riot is trying to spin into a permanent game mode. So really, if you have a look at the entire situation, this is the definition of suffering from success. Once again, many thanks to Blizzard Entertainment for sponsoring this video.